all these people who whinge and bitch about getting older, I always say to them, I've earned every line in my face, and every year and every ache in my bones I regard as a privilege, because I see so many people who never get to grow up, really grow up, get older, watch their children grow up, meet their grandchildren. I'm a physician, a graduate of a medical school, and a clinical haematologist, and then for the last 20 years I've also been looking after dying people, so I do supportive and palliative care. And my grandfather and father used to say to me, you usually don't need to do a whole lot of tests. People will tell you what's wrong with them. You just have to learn to ask the right questions, but more importantly to listen. As they traverse that path from being a healthy person to being a person with an illness we can't cure to being a dying person. It's the effective communication and trust that will enable us to negotiate together a time when there's no treatment decisions to be made, but understanding and acceptance to be found. A particularly strong thing for me is that my very first term as a baby doctor, as an intern in 1984, as an oncology intern, was the number of terrible deaths I saw. But you do have to completely move out of that space, or you would go mad with all that suffering. Some haematology patients I've known for longer than my children, or certainly Maddie, who's 20. Unfortunately, I've had some patients I've known for so long die, and that's really sad and really hard, but it's also really fulfilling to know that I've looked after them for so long. They then trust me to support them through that last phase of their illness. So I think in terms of having a faith, I do think that the work that I do doesn't threaten my faith, although it's taken me a hell of a long time to get my head around it. I guess it was a real challenge. I remember as a 24-year-old doctor looking at a 28-year-old woman with her 2 children playing on the bed, and she got sick and died of this awful malignancy within a couple of months. And where was God in the midst of all of that suffering? But as I've gotten older, I've realised that suffering doesn't belong to God. It's part of being alive and the privilege of being a biological entity. But the presence of God is in the love and the support of those around you and the care that you receive. Acknowledging people's humanity retains their dignity through a huge amount of stuff, and the good nursing staff are key to retaining the humanity and dignity of each person. And if we don't have good nursing staff, we don't have a service. It's not about the doctors. It's about the people who spend most of the time with the patients, who for the inpatient population are the nurses. It's like you have to help people do it better. We're all going to die, and you don't get that time back. And if people die badly, that's the last thing that their loved ones remember. If they die well, it's a gift to the whole family. I mean, my father died at home, as I think you know, and my mother was so helped by the way he died and the gentle death he had. In February of 2016, Dad got very sick, and so for 2 weeks he was at home and we looked after him. When I said to him when he was really sick, I said, "Dad, this is it. Are you sure that you don't want us to take you back to hospital because you're really unwell and I don't think it's far off?" He said, "What's far off?" I looked at him, he said, "You mean death?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh, thank Christ for that." So death is a funny thing, and people never leave you, but your relationship changes. All the pain in this room and the agony in this room is in us. We're the ones who are suffering, seeing the great figure of our childhood and our extraordinarily dignified and all-knowing, all-powerful father in this situation of being the vulnerable figure in the bed unconscious. The dying of a beloved parent or grandparent can help people understand the importance of the real things in life as opposed to the ephemera and the superficial. So we talk about the gift of a life well lived, followed by a death that is peaceful and gentle and where you're surrounded by family. It's a very, very important thing for us to embrace in a society which has done everything it can to get away from aging, and to get away from death. But we can't escape it. We just have to be honest about that, because every day I'm reminded that none of us are here for long.